This is the Louie Tee Network.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie Tee? Welcome to the Louie Tee Network and lockdown coverage. Week number 9 in the National Football League. Your man Louie Tee here covering the entire National Football League like a blanket. Huge NFC North family business affair. The Detroit Lions on the road taking on the division-leading Minnesota Vikings. Vikings on a 2-game skid right now, kind of looking at the Vikings like, hey, man, you don't look anything like the team I saw in the first 5 games of the season. Who are you? No, seriously, who are you? Meanwhile, Lions coming off their first loss in the last 5 games, and so they're thinking to themselves, or first loss in their last 4 games, excuse me. Well, we can't win this division, man. It's right here. Don't nobody want it. How about we take it? Hey, I don't know, man. You want it? Go get it. It's there. Go take it. Green Bay don't want it. Minnesota doesn't want it, obviously. Go take it. Well, if you want the division, you got to go into the Lions den, or in this case, the Vikings den, and you got to go take what you want. And that's what the Lions just basically did. Wasn't pretty. Doesn't have to be. Just got to be gritty and a W. We're going to talk about it here in a second. But first, welcome to the Louie Tee Network. For those of you who haven't already done so, subscribe to the Louie Tee Network for more great content in 2016 and beyond. We're changing the game over here and want you to be a part of it. Hit that red subscribe button for more great content here on the Louie Tee Network. Also, I'm on Twitter. @InTheLabRoom is the Twitter handle. You want to know when I'm uploading a video, when I'm going live. You want to tweet me. You want to go back and forth and talk football, which I love to do with anybody. Follow me @InTheLabRoom on Twitter. Also, I'm on Facebook. In the Lab Room is the Facebook page. Go ahead, give me that thumbs up. About to do some big things on Facebook, so go ahead and give me that like there. And all my social media platforms right there up above. If you can't remember them, they're right there scrolling at the top of the screen. If you're watching this video and you want to comment and have your comment and voice heard at the end of this breakdown, simply use the hashtag LouieTLive, whether you're on Twitter or you're in the YouTube chat discussion. Use the hashtag LouieTLive to have your comment read at the end of this breakdown. With that being said, let's jump right into this football game. It was a crazy contest with an even crazier finish. Let's dive into the likes, dislikes, banana in the tailpipe from the Detroit Lions at the Minnesota Vikings in week number 9 of the National Football League. We start with the likes in the first half of the visiting team, that being the Detroit Lions in this game. Kerry Hyder Jr. strikes again. This man has been phenomenal. Came out of nowhere. I don't think Lions fans were expecting what they've gotten out of Kerry Hyder Jr. this season. 6 sacks now on the season for Kerry Hyder Jr. and a very impactful sack after a Stafford interception, knocking the Vikings out of field goal range. That was a huge play, and as we saw with the final score, it turned out to be an even bigger play in the game. This guy continues to be the best defensive lineman that the Lions have, most consistent for sure. And no one, and I mean no one, not even the Lions coaching staff could have predicted this before the season started. Kerry Hyder Jr. continuing his tear on NFL quarterbacks and NFL offensive lines this season. The defense after the interception, I just talked about Kerry Hyder Jr. getting the sack to put the exclamation point on that defensive possession for the Lions, but make no mistake about it, Stafford throws a bad pick. Chad Greenway picks it off, takes it to the Lions' 18-yard line. You're thinking, all right, hell, let's just try to not give up a touchdown. Let's give up a field goal here. And you get a nice defensive play. You get a penalty on one of the offensive linemen. Then you get a block in the back. Then you turn around and you get a nice 4-yard loss to stop on a tackle. And next thing you know, Kerry Hyder Jr. puts that exclamation point on that possession with a sack that forces the Minnesota Vikings to punt the football after starting at the Lions' 18. Huge defensive stop. And again, as you look at the final score, you saw what kind of impact that defensive possession had on this football game here. The final first half, like for the Lions, the drive and TD before the half, what a phenomenal set of plays there by the Lions. Actually was killing them for clock management there. You got 3 timeouts and you literally let 40 seconds. And I understand the logic and the basis there. Hey, we got time on our side. We got timeouts. But you also don't want to waste time to the point where you don't get a chance to do what it is you want to do. And I thought they actually didn't utilize the clock correctly, but it didn't backfire as they got into scoring range. 17 plays, finally capped off by a touchdown to Anquan Bolden in the end zone. It was just a magnificent drive to end the half. And you know how I feel about points to end the half, especially when it's a touchdown. I mean, I'm really just looking for a field goal at that point. A touchdown is huge, and that was a big play. And again, for two teams that weren't looking to score a ton of points today, a touchdown right before the half was monumental in this ball game. Big drive by the Lions and Matthew Stafford to get in the end zone and take the lead at 10-3 at the halftime break. First half likes for the Minnesota Vikings. A Laquan Treadwell sighting. Who knew? Double aces catching a football, man. Good to see that guy get in the game and get a catch. Don't think that means anything moving forward. I don't think he's going to be a bigger part of the offense. It was just good to see him. At some point, you're like, is this guy even alive? Is this guy even active? You know? So it was just good to see double aces in the game. Way to get in there. Attaboy. Way to get in there and get a grab, man. Way to get on the board. So that was good to see. Chad Greenway interception is my last first half like. It's a big play at the time. You're thinking to yourself, game knotted up at 3. Here's an opportunity to jump in front of these boys and not look back. If you get a touchdown there in this game, the way it went, maybe you can run away with this game. Who knows? But what followed was probably one of the worst drives I've seen after a turnover this season. And it was a really bad sequence of downs, and it really impacted the outcome of this game, obviously. So let's get to the dislikes in the first half. And for me, go back to the Lions. The only one for me is the Matthew Stafford interception. I mean, frankly, the Lions defensively, they only gave up 3 points in the first half. You have a sudden change of possession with the Stafford interception that I disliked. Obviously, I just told you that. And the defense comes out and gets the stop, and I already gave them credit for that. I mean, it was just phenomenal to see the way that this defense was playing. So obviously, I don't have anything to gripe about with the defense. And offensively, neither one of these teams had it going in the first half, but the Lions ended the first half with that flurry, that 17-play drive that got into the end zone. So even if I didn't like what they did offensively, they did enough to get a touchdown before the half and take a 10-3 lead. So obviously, I like what they did there. So a lot of things the Lions did well at the end of the first half, including getting in the end zone, but that Stafford interception, my one dislike. You go to the Vikings and their dislikes in the first half. Possession after the interception. I kind of chronicled this already, but I'll briefly go over it again. You get an interception off of Matthew Stafford. Chad Greenway picks him off, runs it to the 18-yard line. Drive starts there. You get a bad opening play. You get a penalty on TJ Clemmons, your right tackle, and right tackle. And so that pushes you back a little bit. Then you have a blocking the back penalty that hurts you some more. Then you have a swing pass out to the flats where your Stephon Diggs or your running back, can't remember which one it is, loses 4 yards. And then you get a Kerry Hyder Jr. sack on third down, which pushes you all the way back past the 40 and unbelievably puts you out of field goal range when you started the drive inside the red zone at the 18-yard line. That is remarkable. Like, that is a level of ineptitude that I don't even know if the Cleveland Browns could achieve. That was really bad football. For a team that's leading the division, that won 5 straight to start the season off, that's as bad as it gets. And I really don't even know how to begin to explain how you force a turnover and go from the high of creating a turnover in a short field for your offense to basically backtracking 23 yards and pushing your own self out of field goal range. I just don't understand how that happens, but it happened. And again, normally those types of things happen to 1-6 or 1-7 or 0-8 teams, not 5-2 teams. I don't know where this Vikings team is heading right now. That was a bad possession and really a microcosm of what this game was going to turn out for them in the end. Giving up a touchdown right before the half, you can't do that. Find a way to force that to be a field goal. Similar to overtime, find a way to force that to be a field goal. Don't give up a touchdown. Anything but that. Okay, if they want to go 17 plays but have to settle for a field goal, who gives a damn? Okay, let them kick the field goal, but don't let them get in the end zone. Don't do that. Same thing in overtime. Don't do that. We'll talk about that when we get there. But giving up that touchdown was demoralizing. It was backbreaking at the time. Now, it would take them literally 2 quarters to overcome that touchdown that they gave up at halftime, but they were able to overcome the touchdown that they gave up right before halftime. That being said, that was a bad touchdown that you gave up right there before the half. 17 plays. You allowed the Lions to travel and get into the end zone to take a 10-3 lead. You go to the second half likes, and we go back to the Detroit Lions. And Matt Prater is on my likes list. I give Matt Prater a hard time. I do. And I'm the first to tell you when I'm wrong. I'm definitely going to be the first to tell you when I'm right. And I'm not changing my stance on Matt Prater. I told you this already. Matt Prater is a guy you're ultimately probably going to have to replace. But what you do get with Matt Prater is a huge leg and a guy that can kick the football. His problem is consistency. And he's been inconsistently consistent this season, missing at least a kick, it seems like, every game. But he didn't miss a kick this game, and he couldn't afford to. And if he would have missed a kick, you would have lost this game. So kudos to Matt Prater going 3 for 3, including the biggest kick of the day, 58-yarder as time expires to send this game into overtime. That was clutch. I mean, that is as clutch as it gets on the road from that distance. That's big boy football from a field goal kicker. And thought he did some really good things. On a day where Blair Walsh continues to struggle for the Vikings, your kicker came through in the clutch for you and got it done. Matt Prater, huge game for him. And so I thought that I was waiting for that one miss. I said, all right, Matt, where's that one miss? You do it every week. Where is it? He said, nah, not this week. I can't afford to do that. In those other weeks, I could afford to miss one and come back and we still win the game. I can't do that this week. If I miss, we're going to lose. And he said, I got this one this week. So big game for Matt Prater. The Lions defense is on my likes list. They did some extraordinary things in this game. And just looking at what they were able to accomplish, I think there was no bigger stop than the 4th and inches stop at the 4-yard line in the fourth quarter, nursing a 13-9 lead. It was a huge stop in the game. I thought after that stop, they got him. Okay, you get this stop, you put together a couple of first downs, and you probably are going to win this football game. That was at the time, a huge stop, but this defense has been playing well all game long, forcing the Vikings to kick some field goal, or a field goal, have blocked another one. Their red zone defense, they held the Lions to 1 of 4, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on, but held the Vikings to 1 of 4 in the red zone, including that one possession I talked about where they forced the Vikings out of field goal range after they started their possession at the 18-yard line inside the red zone. So the defense of the Lions was huge in this game, and I think there was no bigger possession than the 4th and inches stop inside the 5-yard line, stopping the Vikings short of the line to gain. So I thought the Lions defense did everything they had to do in this game to give their offense a chance, and at the end, the offense prevailed and got the job done, and they wouldn't have been able to do it without the stout play of the Lions on the defensive side of the football. The end of regulation and overtime drives are the last likes on my list. I mean, that was phenomenal, and I've talked about this already. Watching Matthew Stafford put a dagger in my favorite team's heart this season, I know all about what this man is capable of in the final 2 minutes of a game, and he doesn't need much time. We saw him do it against Indy in less than 40 seconds. We saw it again here in less than 30 seconds, putting his team in a position to win a game. And he's just phenomenal in these late game situations. And I thought the Vikings they played it all wrong, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But huge drive to get them into field goal range, spike the football, give your field goal kicker a chance, and Prater delivering from 58. And then getting a football, winning the toss, and taking it right down the field and getting into the end zone on the Golden Tate touchdown. Big play by Tate there to basically split 2 defenders and get into the end zone And they had a bracket coverage on him, which is insane that he still got the football. You got Harrison Smith playing inside leverage, so nothing breaking inside is going to work. So they have an out-breaking route, so it was just perfect coverage. And then you got a cornerback over the top of him. He runs an out, and Stafford puts it on him. He's able to slip the tackle of Harrison Smith. The corner takes a horrible angle. He falls out of bounds, and Golden Tate trollops into the end zone, dives and flips in, and that's your ball game, 22-16. Unbelievable drive, but an even better finish for the Lions, getting that touchdown. If you're the Vikings there, you got to force a field goal. Speaking of which, let's go to the Vikings and their second half likes before we get to the dislikes. Short passing game was phenomenal in this game. Sam Bradford was 31 of 40. Let me say that again. Sam Bradford was 31 of 40. He completed over 75% of his passes in this game. Now, albeit a ton of short ones, okay? A ton of underneath dink and dunkers. It doesn't matter, though. This is what this offense has to do because the offensive line isn't very good. You have to get the ball out of the quarterback's hand, and if the passing game has to be an extension of the run game, so be it. That's what it was this game, and it was effective enough to put the Vikings in a situation to win, but they squandered opportunities throughout the course of this day, and that's why they lost this game. They didn't lose the game because the offense was anemic and they couldn't do anything like last week versus Chicago or the week prior versus Philadelphia. The offense actually moved the football. They just pissed their pants in this game, missing opportunity after opportunity that was created either by the defense or by their own offense driving the football and not being able to finish. 4 trips to the red zone, only 1 touchdown to show for it. That's how you lose football games in this league. We'll talk about that in a second, but short passing game was phenomenal, and I think that's going to be the recipe for this Vikings offense with this offensive line in shambles the way that it is. That's going to be the recipe for success moving forward. It worked in this game as well as you could have asked it to, with Sam Bradford going 31 of 40 for 270 some odd yards. Cordell Patterson is on my likes list. Even though he dropped that touchdown late, he still ended up getting in the end zone on the Rhett Ellison run on the jet sweep to him. But make no mistake about it, every time Cordell Patterson touches the football, it's on an electricity that just is felt by everybody, including the opposition. He's so dynamic on kickoffs. He's not on punts. But if Sherrills can't go, that's the guy that I would like to put back there. And Stephon Diggs had a really good punt return in this game too. But Cordell Patterson is a guy that I marvel at what he does when he touches the football. He's so dynamic, and he's a guy that I keep advocating for him to touch it more, and he's touching it more, so I'm not going to complain about it. But Cordell Patterson is one of my favorite players to watch with the football in his hands in this league. Late touchdown drive to go ahead 16-13. Huge turn of events there. That final drive you thought was the game winner. You're thinking, wow, we made a ton of mistakes in this game. We allowed the Lions to take the lead and really have control of this game for much of the second half. We've made mistake after mistake after mistake. And here we are with a chance to win the game with 23 seconds left. Great drive to get in the end zone. Gutsy call to hand it to your tight end from the 1-yard line and to have him get in. And it was a really creative play, and it worked. Barely getting in there before fumbling. But that last drive was what winning teams do. You find a way to win, or so we thought. And then we're going to talk about the Vikings and the defensive approach late in the game as we get to the dislikes for both teams in the second half. We go to the Lions, and it's giving up the late touchdown with 23 seconds left. You worked so hard in this game defensively to win and to give up that touchdown late. And if this game doesn't turn the way that it does and you lose this game 16-13, you're going to be kicking yourself because you gave up an opportunity to win by giving up a late touchdown. You played so well for 3 3/4 quarters and literally going to give it up in the final 23 seconds. Hell, that's not even 3 3/4. That's 3 8/9 of the game, literally, is done. And you give up a touchdown to give the Vikings a 3-point lead in what seems like the game with 23 seconds left. That's gut-wrenching, but this team has persevered all season long, and I think Jim Caldwell said something to the effect of, this team performs best when the pressure is its greatest. And he's been right about that this season. I mean, when this team is put in uncomfortable, he said, we're comfortable being uncomfortable. And you've seen that this season. The Lions are comfortable being uncomfortable. When the game is on the line, when they're trailing late, Matthew Stafford doesn't sweat. He doesn't blink. He's got that poker face, and he takes his team right down the field, and that's what this team has been all season long, and they did it again, but don't put yourself in that position. Get the stop. Force them to have to get in the end zone on fourth down. Force them to not get in the end zone. You've done it before in this game. Do it again. Don't give up that touchdown with 23 seconds left in the game. Minnesota Vikings second half dislikes. Blair Walsh missed a point after attempt. Look, man, that impacts you because it changes the way you approach the game. If he makes that extra point, you don't go for it on 4th and inches from the 4-yard line. You kick a field goal. You know why? Because that's going to tie the game. And then later on in the game, when you score a touchdown, you don't score a touchdown there. You force the Lions, who had already used all their timeouts, to force them to use all their timeouts, which they did. And then you eat the rest of the clock up. You call a timeout. You kick your field goal to win the game 13-16 or 16-13 with no time remaining. That's how this game ends. It doesn't end with you leaving 23 seconds on the clock because you need a touchdown because Blair Walsh missed an extra point, which forced you to then go for it on 4th down few possessions later that you didn't get, which puts you in a 4-point deficit, which makes you have to score a touchdown late, which then doesn't allow you to control the clock. Instead, he makes that extra point. You kick a field goal later. You're then tied at 13, and then you kick the field goal late to give you the 16-13 win with no time remaining. That's how this game should have played out. And then take it a step further, he has a field goal blocked. Is that on him? No, maybe not. I don't know what the trajectory was on that kick, but it got blocked. Either way, Blair Walsh is becoming a problem in Minnesota. Okay, you can't avoid this any longer. His rookie season was nice. It was great. You thought, hey, we might have our form of Jason Hanson. Okay, we're about to have our new Gary Anderson. No, he might have to go. Okay, it's starting to become a problem. When after games you keep having to ask the question of the kicker, hey, what happened on that kick? That's a problem that needs to be resolved. There's too many kickers out there that can kick for you to keep having dead weight on a team that's going to have to rely on their kicker because you know you're not going to score a bunch of points. You can't afford to have these kinds of F-ups. These got to go. And if he's the problem, he's got to go. Special teams is too important to this Vikings team. They win on special teams and defense. Their offense not going to be the reason they win a ton of games this year. So if Blair Walsh can't get it done, you're going to have to move on. You're going to have to move on. Red zone offense, huge dislike. 1 of 4 in this game. You get 1 touchdown, 1 field goal, 1 blocked field goal, and then you start a possession at the 18 before losing 23 yards in 3 plays and having to punt the football. Inexplicably, unexplainable. That can't happen, but it did. 1 of 4. That's a losing recipe every day of the week in the red zone. And that's part of the reason why the Vikings lost this football game. Defense on the final drive of the game in overtime. I got to delve into this because nothing pisses me off more than soft coverage late in the ball game. I don't understand why at the most critical juncture of a game in which you've dominated defensively, you decide to do exactly the opposite of what got you in the position of winning this game, which is just rushing 4 guys and playing regular coverage. What's wrong with rushing 4 players, dropping your 7 defenders in the coverage, including 2 safeties high? What's the hard part about that? Nothing's changed here. Stay in your base defense if you like. If you want to go nickel, that's fine. Take a linebacker off the field, bring another corner in, because most likely the Lions are going to be in a 3 wide receiver set. I don't have a problem with that. Either way, what's the problem with maintaining defensive integrity in that spot? I don't understand why teams feel the need to all of a sudden now, I'm rushing 3, I'm dropping 8, and I'm going to play 87 yards off and give you all the space that you could ask for to complete a 27-yard pass with the game on the line. I don't understand why teams think that this is a good idea. You know what prevent defense prevents you from doing? Winning the goddamn game, okay? Rush 4 defenders, go after Matthew Stafford, make him uncomfortable. You know who the best teams are? You know who the best defensive coordinators are? You know who the best defenses are? Ones that don't ever take their foot off the gas pedal. The ones that don't say, okay, it's 3rd and 17 late in the ball game. They need 30 yards to get in the field goal range. I'm going to drop 8 defenders, and I'm going to make sure that everybody's back at the sticks 17 yards off the ball. You know who wins games? The defensive coordinator says, I don't give a damn what the hell the down and distance is, what time of the game it is. I'm going down guns are blazing, man. I'm going to load my gun up in the same bullets I've been shooting all game. I'm going to continue to shoot and squeeze that trigger till the clip is empty. That's what I'm going to do. And if that means rushing forward, dropping 7 like I've been doing all game that held the Lions to 13 points, that's what I'm going to do. If that means me blitzing 6 guys, which is what I've been doing all game on third down situations or in critical situations in the game, that's what I'm going to do. But the one thing I'm not going to do is let Matthew Stafford stand in the pocket for 8 seconds, pat the ball 3 times, and then throw a dart over the middle of the field to Anquan Bolden for 27 yards. That's what I'm not going to do. Overtime defense, too many penalties, too many mistakes, including the 2 missed tackles on the final play of the game. You can't win football games that way. And I really think that the Vikings were shell-shocked from what happened to them at the end of regulation. You don't overcome that. They had to go literally 45 yards in 23 seconds, and you allowed them, and no timeouts, by the way, and you allowed them to do that. So I really don't know what to say to you. I mean, they were stunned. That game had no business going to overtime. They were stunned. And I give all the credit to the Lions, and I give all the grief, the flack, and the blame to the defensive coordinator of the Minnesota Vikings, because in that situation, you don't deviate from what got you the lead. You play straight up to win the game. And you didn't play to win. You played not to lose. So you lost. All right. So banana in the tailpipe for both teams in this game. We'll start with the Lions. I'm not buying the banana. I'm not falling for the banana in the tailpipe that the Lions can keep up these late game heroics. Some seasons, though, I will say this, there are seasons where some teams just have that it factor. What is it? I don't know what it is, but the Lions have it this season. Will it run out? Maybe, maybe not. If it doesn't, they might win this division. If it does, they're not going to win this division. They're not going to even make the playoffs because they're living on the edge every week. Every week. Hell, if Jim Caldwell makes the right decision last week, maybe they don't lose that game. I'm not saying, I'm just saying. Every week, though, it's an adventure with this Detroit Lions team. It's a game coming down to the final possession where Matthew Stafford's got to be their hero and save them from the jaws of defeat. And I don't know how much longer you can live that way. That's a tough existence to have. And so I'm not falling for the banana in the tailpipe that they're going to continue to be able to do this every week. This is exhausting mentally, physically, emotionally. I don't know if they can keep getting away with these. I just don't. I'm not falling for the banana in the tailpipe. I need to see consistent play for 4 quarters, and you just beat some teams. I haven't seen that. I just don't know what I'm buying with this team. I can't fall for the late game heroics continuing for the remainder of the season. And for the Vikings, I'm not going to fall for the banana in the tailpipe that they're not still the best team in this division. I know you just lost this game, and I know you're not playing great football right now, but I think you figured something out offensively with the short passing game. I think Pat Shurmur may be on to something here with the short passing game being an extension of the run game. You can't run the football consistently. So why even try? If the short passing game is throwing it to the running back out of the backfield and letting him run for 4 yards on first down, or dumping it down to Kyle Rudolph on a simple hook over the middle of the field on first down, if, throwing it to Matt Asiata on a check down or on a flare route, or Ronnie Hillman on the flare route out of the backfield and him picking up 24 is your version of running the football, so be it. If throwing it to Stephon Diggs on a 5-yard stick route or throwing a hitch to Stephon Diggs on first down and having him run for 3 is your run game, I'm all for it. I think they found something offensively, and defensively, they're still good. Even in their losses, they've been good defensively. When they lost to Philadelphia, they dominated that game defensively. They forced a ton of turnovers. It's just the offense was horrible in that game. Against Chicago, again, they gave up 20. Yeah, the defense wasn't great. Yeah, they got gutted on the ground, but they only gave up 20 points. The offense was horrendous in that game. The offense wasn't that bad. The defense wasn't that bad, but the offense still wasn't good enough in this game. The defense was. So I'm not buying the banana tailpipe. I'm not falling for the banana tailpipe that this Vikings team still isn't the best team in this division, because I look at the Packers. They've got faults. They've got flaws. Every team in this division has flaws. And right now I think their defense in Minnesota is going to be the best unit of any other team in this division's unit. And I'm talking about any unit, special teams, offense for any team in this division. I think the Vikings defense is the best unit in that division, and I think that's what's going to end up powering them to this division title. I'm not giving up on the Vikings yet, but I'll tell you what, they got to stop with the mistakes, and they got to find a way to get the job done. We're going to see if they can bounce back from this loss. This was a gut wrencher. What Mike Zimmer has to do here is not allow this loss, because this was such a painful loss. Don't allow this loss to turn into 2 losses and another loss next week on the road versus the Redskins. This is a tough, bitter pill to swallow here. Let's go to your comments. Alan Dilworth says, if the Vikes would have taken their last time out later than 27 seconds, it wouldn't have gave Stafford enough time to make a comeback. Yeah, this was the thing. They wanted to make sure that they scored. I think they could have used that clock, and they still didn't think that Stafford would be able to do anything with 23 seconds. Like, I didn't really have a problem with because in that situation, you can't worry about what Stafford is going to do. You got to get in the end zone first. Like, you want to take off as much time as possible. Definitely, that's in the back of your mind. But that time doesn't even matter if you don't score. So really, in the grand scheme of things, you don't want to wait till 15 seconds to call your timeout and then put yourself in a position where you don't have enough time. What if the next couple of plays take up the next play you run takes up 8 seconds. Now you only got 7 seconds left. You don't want to put yourself in a position where you don't have enough time to do what you need to do, which is score. That's the first order of business. So while you want to take off as much time as possible, the first order of business is scoring. And I got to make sure I got enough time. What if on the next play, Sam Bradford immediately has pressure up the middle, has to scramble outside the pocket, is looking for somebody, buying some time, and then throws it out the back of the end zone, and that play takes up 9 seconds. Well, call that timeout at 27 seconds doesn't hurt you. Now you got 18 seconds left. You still got plenty of time to do what you need to do. Say if you call that timeout at 15 and that same exact scenario plays out, now there's only 6 seconds left. You don't want to put yourself in that position, so I didn't have a problem with them. Again, Matthew Stafford shouldn't be able to take his team down the field and put them in field goal range with 23 seconds left and no timeouts. That shouldn't happen, not against this Vikings defense. Eagle Speed is a nerd says, should the Vikings release Blair Walsh? You don't release anyone unless you have a comparable or better replacement already in-house. If they can try out some kickers on Tuesday, which is what Tuesday is designated for in the NFL, tryouts, if they can try out a kicker and they feel confident that this guy could be just as good, if not better than Blair Walsh, then you release him. But until you have that guy, you don't get rid of Blair Walsh. So am I trying out kickers tomorrow? You damn right I am. Am I making a move? Maybe, maybe not. Depends on what I see. Jordan Bryant says, Curry has 7 sacks. I stand corrected if that is in fact true. I heard the commentators say 6, but if he's at 7, it doesn't matter. 6, 7, the man has been an animal this season. I'll take your word for it because you sound like you're a Lions fan. I'll take your word for it and say he's got 7 sacks on the season. He's been an animal this season, and I've been impressed with him since week 1 when he had 2 sacks versus Indianapolis. This guy's just been phenomenal, and he's come out of nowhere. I love these guys that come out of nowhere that no one's ever heard of, and they're impacting the game. And you're not getting what you thought you were going to get out of Ziggy Ansah this season. You're not getting anything out of Haloti Ngata. This guy has stepped up and been the most consistent force along that defensive line. Eagle Speed is a nerd says, think the Vikings will choke away the rest of the season. Nah, I told you what my banana in the tailpipe was already, and you probably asked that question before I gave you my banana in the tailpipe, but that's how I feel about the Vikings the rest of the season. Jordan Bryant says, will anyone give Jim Caldwell credit for what he has done with this team that isn't all that talented? I love what Caldwell has done. A lot of people beat him up, and I know a lot of Lions fans that still want him fired. Nothing has changed despite winning 4 out of your last 5 games after starting 1-3. The fact of the matter is, Jim Caldwell is a guy that a lot of people look at and say he's replaceable. And despite what he's done with this team and what they've done in this turnaround, a lot of people still don't like Jim Caldwell's game management, and so he's still going to catch a lot of flack. Last week is a case in point with the Texans game and kicking onside when you've got 3 timeouts and it's 2 minutes and 50 seconds left or 40-something seconds left in the game. Not a smart move there. He made a couple of bonehead decisions, not taking the penalty last week. These are all things that people question with Jim Caldwell, and because of moves like that, he's probably not going to get the credit he deserves. But there are people giving him credit. I'm one of them that says, look, man, this team was dead at 1-3, and they ran off 3 straight to get over 500. They lose last week, and then you could have said, all right, they're going on the road to Minnesota now. They're going to lose again, and they win that game. So Jim Caldwell deserves a lot of credit. This team is at 5-4 and right there with a chance to take the lead in this division. They're right there. It's amazing. Really is. Marvin Jones Jr. or Stephon Diggs? Someone asked me. I can't pronounce their. I'll call him YS. Well, Marvin Jones Jr. was brought in to be a number one receiver, and Stephon Diggs still a young guy in this league. Jones has a lot of experience under his belt. I'm going to go with the more experienced player, but if you're talking long-term impact and ability to make plays, I'm taking Stephon Diggs. But if you're talking about right now, if you ask me right now which one of those guys I want, I'm going to take Marvin Jones Jr. But if you're talking about long-term and go outlook of career, I'm taking Stephon Diggs. Kyle Stokes says, tough loss for the Vikes, but their offense definitely look more diverse. Do you think Shermer is tailoring the offense more for Bradford? I do. And like I told you, Bradford looked good, 31-40. I think they figured out some things offensively. I really feel like the Vikings are going to be fine. What we saw in this game and what we've seen in the past when Norv Turner was the offensive coordinator, it looked light years different. And I think because what you saw gives you confidence moving forward, offensively, we know what this team is on the defensive side of football. We know what they've done special teams-wise. This is a good team, all right? And the offense has been holding them back, but the offense looked better this week. That gives me hope for the Vikings in the future that they'll be able to turn this thing around. Eagle Speed is a nerd says, Vikings defense is falling off quickly. I vehemently disagree. When you give up 22 points in a game and 9 of them come in the final, I don't know how long it took the Lions to score in overtime. Let's just say 6 minutes in overtime and the 23 seconds in regulation. When you give up 22 points and 9 of them come in a stunning turn of events in the final 7 minutes of the game, you tell me, man. You tell me their defense is falling off, because I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it at all. In any event, that's going to do it for me here on Lockdown Coverage. Lions get it done over the Minnesota Vikings 22-16 in overtime. The Lions run their record to 5-4, a half game out of first place behind the now reeling 5-3 Minnesota Vikings, losers of 3 straight. This one is a gut punch. And we're going to find out what kind of mettle and resolve this Vikings team has next week, because this is one of those losses that if you're not careful, it could spiral into 2 losses quickly, because that was a heartbreaker. You had this game, slip through your fingers, you go to overtime, and you're not able to pick the pieces back up fast enough to win the football game. Lions, big win. Big win. They're playing some good football now, winners of 4 out of their last 5 games. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here on Lockdown Coverage in the lab room. I'm your man, Louie Tee, telling you that we're changing the game one live feed at a time. I got plenty more games to break down today, man. Come back and join me as I continue to run through the gamut of the Week 9 schedule in the National Football League. I'll see you a little bit later on. Have a